Welcome to Digital Softics. In this session, we are going to explain a very important concept. What is object-oriented programming? So this is object-oriented programming tutorials. So we explain the object-oriented programming, and we explain this thing with the help of real-life example. So let's move towards the object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming is very important concept in programming. That is why most of the software and the big application contain the object-oriented programming. That is why object-oriented programming is very simple and it is a reusable uh, modules of the software, and that is reused in the future. So it will less consume the time of developers, and he reuse here programs in the future development. So today's agenda include what is object-oriented programming, why OOP, why object-oriented programming, and language that support object-oriented programming, and what are the important concepts in object-oriented programming. So first I'm going to show you that OOP is stand for object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming is a computer programming paradigm in which the data is oriented around objects rather than around functions. Object means that students real life things. For example, students, persons, uh, everything that you see on your eyes, that is objects. So object oriented programming is a computer paradigm in which the data is oriented around the objects. For example, if I have the students class, so that class must contain the data about the students. So around the objects, the data is oriented. So we will explore this concept how data is oriented around the objects in this tutorials. In object oriented programming, the program is organized in classes and the class is accessed with the help of objects. We have very important two component, the building blocks of object oriented programming, that is class and its objects. We create class, we specify in the class, we define the data types and the member functions, and with the help of object we can access this class. So let's explore what is a class. A class is a template that provides the procedure of creating objects. Class contain data members, for example int, float, double. Class contain member functions such as function to displaying something or function to calculate something, user defined function we can say. So we have also the built-in defined functions in classes we can define. So for this simplicity, the class is a template that provide procedure for creating objects. What a class contain? A class contain member, data members and member function. And data members, we define, declare the data types. For example, int, float, string, char, boolean, everything that is the uh, data member. And we have the member functions, so functions to calculate and to perform operation on the data types we have defined are data members. So that is why the very, if someone asks you that what class contain data members and member functions. So what is object? An object is the instance of a class. With the help of object, we can access the class data, data member, and member functions. For example, we have a class vehicle. So in vehicle, we define that vehicle have engine, they have four wheels, they have lights, they have four seats, they have a lot of properties. So we define these things in a class. But in objects, we define, if I created this object BMW. So BMW is a specific model or specific company for the vehicle. It have the properties of all the common vehicle, but it have some important properties like we use artificial intelligence, auto driving. So that is why we define objects. Objects specify the class and specify the functions according to the properties of objects. For example, BMW are different from Toyota, from IOD, from Nissan, from Volvo. So that is why if I created a class vehicle, so in vehicle class, I define this thing that it is a common thing. It have all the properties of all class present in the world. But with the help of object, IOD have different properties. So if in IOD, I define that IOD have this specific functionality, and Nissan have other specific functionality and Volvo have. So that is why I reuse the one class for the 2 3 companies. So that is why it is reusable. It creates software, create modules that are reusable in the future session, because in the future development, because I have used this car class for 3 objects and I assign with the help of these 3 objects I can access, and that every IoD Nissan and will have their own specific functionality and they have properties, but they have properties that are present in the class car. So graphical view, for example, if I have the vehicle class, I have 2 other classes that is derived from this vehicle, that is wheeled vehicle that contain wheels and that have ships. So 2 types of vehicle we have: the ships which are run in the sea or in the water, in the wheel vehicle. So wheel vehicle are further categorized into 4 wheels and 2 wheels. There is cycle and there is motor car. For example, if I have 2 other uh, distribution of the car, the 4 wheel, that is BMW or Nissan, whatever you say. So the car is further divided according to the properties. So this vehicle class is defined according to the specific property. So there is why in it's generally defined the thing and is specified when the things are going down and the properties are attached with this specific class. And that is why with the help of object I can specify that access this 4 wheel or 2 wheel and boat, I can access them because they are further categorized but they have the properties of vehicle. Why? Object-oriented programming help us to organize program in systematic way. For example, for vehicle, we create vehicle class car, BMW, Honda. Animal, we have cow, dog. So we categorize things easily. We can show graphical views of our systems, and that is why we can easily develop our systems. So that is why object-oriented programming are categorize things in in better way, dividing things and creating modules of every system. So that is why updating the software or updating a specific component of a class or software must be very easy for us to update these things, and the things are divided, so the things are being developed in very short period of time. So that is why the things are divided. So there is OOP concept. So OOP help us to organize the program in systematic way. We have a class name. For example, we have, this is a simple template. We have a class name here. We have the data members and they have member functions. They have model, color, registration, and we have a member function that is forward, backward, stop. That is a car vehicle. So this class or class contain the class name, the data members, and the member functions. So these are the very very important representation are displaying the class in graphical view, that a class contains the class name, the class keyword, and the name of the class. So here we have the class keyword and vehicle. They have a data members and member functions. So we will explain the classes and objects in detail in the coming tutorials. That is why here we just give you introduction towards the object-oriented programming. So we have a languages, except C, most of language support object-oriented programming: Python, Java, C++, Swift, C Sharp, Ruby, Kotlin. Most of the languages use or support the object-oriented programming except C language. So we have the important features. So these are very important features of object-oriented programming. We have abstraction, polymorphism, encapsulation, and inheritance. So if someone wants to make himself an expert in object-oriented programming, he must know about these concepts. That is why these concepts are used according to the user, according to the system we want to develop. Abstraction, we have polymorphism, we have encapsulation, we have inheritance. So we will explore one by one this thing in the future lessons. So it's all about the object oriented programming, that what is object oriented programming. So object oriented programming help us to organize the class in systematic way. So with the help of object oriented programming we divide these things. Thanks for watching.